Macbeth. What if someone told you that one day you would become king? Would you wait and see if fate made it happen, or would you make it happen yourself? For Macbeth, one prophecy planted a tiny seed of ambition, and that seed would eventually destroy almost everything he loved. Macbeth was a respected Scottish nobleman and one of King Duncan's greatest warriors. After winning a fierce battle for Scotland, Macbeth was returning home with his friend Banquo when something strange happened. On a lonely Scottish moor, three mysterious witches appeared. They greeted Macbeth with three titles. One was his current title, another was a title he did not yet have, and the third was almost impossible to believe. Macbeth would become King of Scotland. Then the witches turned to Banquo. Although Banquo would never become king himself, his descendants would become kings. Macbeth and Banquo didn't know what to believe. But shortly afterward, messengers from King Duncan arrived. They gave Macbeth the new title the witches had just predicted. Suddenly, the impossible prophecy didn't seem so impossible. If the witches were right about this, could they also be right about the crown? For the first time, Macbeth seriously imagined himself as king. Macbeth wrote to his wife and told her about the witches. Lady Macbeth immediately became fascinated by their prophecy. To her, this wasn't something they should simply wait for, it was an opportunity. Soon, an opportunity arrived at their front door. King Duncan announced that he would spend the night at Macbeth's castle. Lady Macbeth saw their chance. If Duncan remained alive, Macbeth might wait years for the throne or never receive it at all. So Lady Macbeth proposed a horrifying solution: kill Duncan. Macbeth hesitated. Duncan was his king, his guest, and he trusted Macbeth. Macbeth wanted to abandon the plan, but Lady Macbeth challenged his courage and determination. Eventually, Macbeth gave in. Late that night, while Duncan slept, Macbeth walked through the castle. Then he saw something strange. A dagger appeared to float in the air before him. Its blade seemed to point toward Duncan's room. Macbeth reached for the dagger, but there was nothing there. His own mind was already turning against him. Yet instead of turning back, Macbeth kept walking. Macbeth entered Duncan's room and murdered the sleeping king. When he returned, Macbeth was horrified by what he had done. Lady Macbeth tried to remain calm. They covered their tracks and placed the blame on Duncan's guards. By morning, Scotland's king was dead. Duncan's sons fled, afraid they might be next. Their escape made them look suspicious. And with Duncan dead and his sons gone, Macbeth became king. But becoming king didn't end Macbeth's fear. It multiplied it. He remembered the witch's other prophecy: Banquo's descendants would become kings. What if Macbeth had murdered Duncan, only for Banquo's family to inherit the crown? Banquo had once been his friend. Now Macbeth saw him as a threat. Macbeth secretly arranged for Banquo and his son Fleance to be attacked. Banquo was killed, but Fleance escaped. Later, during a royal banquet, Macbeth saw Banquo again, not alive, but as a ghost. Banquo appeared in Macbeth's seat. Macbeth panicked and shouted at something nobody else could see. Desperate for answers, Macbeth returned to the witches. This time they gave him new warnings and promises. First, beware Macduff. But then came two predictions that made Macbeth feel almost invincible. No man born of woman would defeat him, and Macbeth would remain safe until Birnam Wood moved toward his castle. Forests don't walk. Macbeth believed he was unbeatable. Macduff had become one of Macbeth's strongest enemies. He fled to England to help Duncan's son Malcolm raise an army. Macbeth answered with cruelty. He attacked Macduff's home and family. When Macduff learned what had happened, his grief became determination. Macbeth had created the enemy who would eventually come for him. Meanwhile, Lady Macbeth was falling apart. The woman who once told Macbeth to forget his guilt could no longer escape her own. At night, she wandered through the castle, rubbing her hands as though trying to wash away blood that existed only in her mind. Eventually, Lady Macbeth died. The crown had given Macbeth power, but almost everything that once gave his life meaning was disappearing. Then Malcolm and Macduff returned with an army. As they approached Macbeth's castle, Malcolm ordered every soldier to cut a branch from Birnam Wood and carry it in front of him. The branches would hide the size of their army. From Macbeth's castle, it looked impossible. Birnam Wood was moving toward him. One of the witch's predictions was coming true, but Macbeth still trusted the witch's other promise. No man born of woman could kill him, so he put on his armor and prepared to fight. In the battle, Macbeth came face to face with Macduff. Macbeth warned him no man born of woman could defeat him. But Macduff revealed the truth. He had not been born through ordinary childbirth. Macduff had been delivered by caesarean birth. Suddenly, Macbeth understood. The witches hadn't promised true safety. They had given him words that only sounded safe. Macbeth refused to surrender. The two men fought, and Macduff killed him. Macbeth's violent reign was finally over. Malcolm, Duncan's son, became King of Scotland, and Macbeth's reign was over. Macbeth began as a brave and respected man. The witches didn't force him to murder Duncan. They didn't force him to kill Banquo, and they didn't force him to become a tyrant. They simply showed him a possible future. Macbeth chose what he was willing to do to reach it, and that's what makes his story so powerful. Ambition itself wasn't Macbeth's enemy. Ambition without morality was. He believed becoming king would give him greatness, security, and happiness. He got the crown and spent the rest of his life terrified of losing it. Macbeth gained power, but lost peace. He gained a kingdom, but lost the people closest to him. And trying desperately to protect everything he had gained, he lost everything. Sometimes the question isn't, how badly do you want something? A better question is, what are you willing to become to get it? For more great stories and powerful ideas told simply, subscribe to MindSketch.